Some of our Hebrew first, and then we'll read what Zechariah wrote back in like 520 BC. The first thing that Zechariah sees in this vision is this giant flying roll. Now, what is a roll? Some Bibles say scroll, but the word here is Megillah, not a scroll like we commonly think that rolls up into the two cylinders. Torah is written on a scroll rolled up into the two cylinders. Now, a Megillah rolls up into a single cylinder. For example, the book of Esther is on a Megillah and rolls up into a single roll. You can see here a Megillah is pretty much a cylinder and typically has this common 2-to-1 height to circumference ratio. Zechariah gives the size of this Megillah that he sees flying through the air. He says that it's 20 cubits high and 10 cubits in breadth. Now, the word breadth here is not diameter. Diameter is a Greek measurement. The breadth Zechariah is talking about here is what they call a line cast about. We would call it circumference. Like back in, I think it's 1 Kings maybe, King Solomon was building his house with these giant pillars, 30 cubits in breadth. This was a line cast about, not diameter. They weren't 30 cubits in diameter. To find the diameter of a cylinder, if you want to know how big this flying Megillah was, Zechariah describes, you have to take the breadth and divide it by pi. The Megillah Zechariah saw here was 20 cubits high and 10 cubits in breadth, or line cast about. That comes out to be approximately 5.5 feet in diameter when you do the math. Okay, now that we know what a Megillah looks like, let's move on. Zechariah is going to go on to describe a woman, or an Isha, that's the Hebrew for woman, that sits in the midst of an ephah, or in some versions they say a basket. Let's look closely at these two words and see exactly what an Isha is and exactly what an ephah is. In the Hebrew, the word Isha can mean two different things. It can either mean a woman, which is what most translations put it into the English, or the exact same word Isha can mean fire offering. It's the exact same word. And you can only tell by the context which one is being used here. An ephah, in some versions they call it a basket, a woman in a basket, or an Isha in a basket. But the word basket is actually ephah. It's more precisely a receptacle for holding a quantity of 40 liters. It's a container, sometimes made of clay, sometimes it can be a basket, but it has a capacity to hold about 40 liters, kind of like a bushel basket kind of deal, a dry unit of measurement. The NIV and most other modern versions just say basket, but remember, the word here is ephah. When we read through this Zechariah chapter 5, we have to remember that when the Bible translators were putting this passage in English 400 years ago, the idea of a fire offering encased in lead that sat in the midst of an ephah seemed kind of weird to them. So they opted instead for a woman in a basket with a lead lid on it instead. We're going to actually see how since 1945 that this Hebrew word Isha really being a fire offering like it means will make a lot more sense than stuffing some woman into a basket that's flying around and putting a lead lid on it because she's so evil. Now that we have checked some of our Hebrew, and being that we now live in the nuclear age, we might be the first generation to actually understand this prophecy. So let's read Zechariah chapter 5 using the original Hebrew words to keep us on track here. All right. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll, a Megillah. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying Megillah, a roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. Now, if we do the math on this, that works out to be 34.3 feet long. There's 20.6 inches per cubit. And if you want to figure out the diameter, you can do the math, and it comes out to be about 5.5 feet in diameter, this flying Megillah. So Zechariah sees this flying roll, 34 feet long, 5.5 feet wide. Basically a single cylinder as opposed to a scroll with two rolls rolled up together. A Megillah can also have various writing and markings on the sides of it, okay? All right, let's read on. Then said he unto me, This roll, or this Megillah, is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off, as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it, this flying roll, shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. And it shall remain in the midst of the house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Okay. So far we have this 34-foot-long flying Megillah that flies through the air and kills people by slamming into their houses and consuming even the stones thereof. And it leaves a residue. Okay, let's read on. Then the angel that talked with me went forth, and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes, and see what this is that goeth forth. You see, Zechariah would have known what a Megillah was. He read them all the time. This was obviously something new to him that looked sort of like a Megillah. And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. Okay, this Megillah is delivering a 40-liter container of some kind, an ephah. He said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. So there's more than just one of these. According to this is how they look throughout the entire earth. Okay? This is where it starts getting really, really interesting. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this talent of lead that was lifted up is an Isha, not a woman, but a fire offering that sits in the midst of the ephah, the 40-liter container. So, in the original Hebrew here is an Isha, a fire offering, that is a round, heavy weight of metal, translated back in 1611 as lead, that sits in the midst of a 40-liter container. That's weird. Okay, let's read on a little more. And he said, This is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Okay, now this is getting scary. Zechariah is detailing the detonation of the atomic trigger of a thermonuclear warhead. In the Hiroshima fission bomb, you had two subcritical masses of fissile material that were imploded into each other using conventional explosives, which triggered a nuclear reaction. Okay, a plutonium bullet was cast into the mouth thereof of a larger mass of U-235 using TNT to achieve critical mass. There's no Hebrew word for uranium-235. So the closest possible way Zechariah could have described this would have been as lead. Uranium actually turns into lead as it encounters radioactive decay. This fission device Zechariah described here itself is an atomic bomb, the likes of which is also available to be used as the atomic trigger for larger thermonuclear fusion bombs like the H-bomb. Also, nuclear warheads are typically encased in lead or beryllium to contain stray neutrons during detonation and also protect the handlers that come close to the weapon. But that's not all. It goes on even farther. I think it's verse 9 here. Then lifted I up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came out two Isha, fire offerings. And the wind was in their wings, for they had the wings like the wings of a stork. You ever see a stork flying? Kind of, they got that long, stretched out body. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. So we have these flying rolls or Megillahs, which are carrying up into what we call the upper atmosphere, these 40-liter containers loaded with round weights of heavy metal, which are themselves wicked fire offerings, which are going to go and kill people and consume even the stones of their houses, and then leave this residue behind on top of it. if this is in fact what he saw 2,500 years ago, there is no possible way to say it more clearly in his Hebrew language. There's no way you can say that more clearly. He just described the entire mechanism of the whole device. So who is the one that's getting judged by these flying rolls, whatever they are? Then I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established, and set there upon her own base. All right. To build, that's to establish, to cause, to continue. It a house, that's actually in the Hebrew, if you look it up, that is kind of talking like it can be a house of Sheol, or a house of hell. And it can be established, or it shall be established. Set up, erect, set upright, like you would set a vase upright. And set, that's to lay down or deposit, actually. There upon her own base. Resting place, base. So basically what this is saying is this ephah, when it arrives to wherever it's going, its destination, it deposits the wicked fire offering there.
I am thrilled beyond thrilled to present
The prophet Zechariah in particular describes what seems to be a nuclear exchange in such vivid detail, it's downright scary. He speaks of these flying cylindrical containers that deliver these wicked fire offerings composed of extremely heavy metal, which fly across the face of the whole earth and consume houses and buildings, even the stones thereof, and they even leave this residue behind after the destruction. Zechariah even gives the exact dimensions of the delivery vehicles, the size of the containers that hold the wicked fire offerings, and he even details exactly how the heavy metal mechanism of this evil fire offering is detonated. He identifies exactly who is targeted and even why. We also read about the judgment of the great whore of Babylon, the city that sits on 7 hills, and how God will cause the kings of the earth to hate her and consume her with fire until she will be found no more at all forever. The scriptures do seem to have a lot to say about this coming fire judgment. device. So who is the one that's getting judged by these flying rolls? Then I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar. Now, it's going to build it a house in the land of Shinar. What's that talking about? Literal Shinar, or Babylon, that's another, is in present-day Iraq. Shinar is Babylon. After reading the terrifying account in Ezekiel 38 and 39 about the coming war that in that region, it's fair to say that this war includes the Middle East. However, from other passages, I really don't think you can just limit it to that region alone. We know that God will destroy Mystery Babylon the Great by causing the kings of the earth to utterly burn her with fire. Remember Revelation chapter 17 and 18? So what is this Mystery Babylon the Great? The mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Well, if you read Revelation, she's that great city which is drunken with the blood of the saints. She reigns over the kings of the earth, and she sits upon the 7 hills. Okay? You need to read Revelation 17